Turn in your Bibles to Mark chapter 5 as we continue on through the Gospel of Mark. And start with some questions. What is it about Jesus that people would leave family and friends to follow him? It says in chapter 5, verse 21, now when Jesus had crossed over again by the boat to the other side, remember he went to the one side, calmed the storm, now he's come back. It says, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. But what is it about Jesus that attracts people that martyrs would die rather than deny him? That missionaries would go around the world, giving their lives, loving the unlovely in his name? What is it about him that stirs such passionate devotion? In his book, Jesus, Man of Joy, Sherwood Wirt admits that according to the world's standard of greatness, that's according to the world's standard of greatness, Jesus' life wasn't that extraordinary. From a strictly materialistic viewpoint, this is what he wrote, this person's active life did not accomplish all that much. Remarkable actions were attributed to him, but he wrote no epics, raised no monuments. In early youth, he seems to have worked with his hands. Later, he taught, prayed, and healed, as many prophets had done before him and have done since. That he had noble character and personal charm and uttered many wise things that people have been quoting ever since could be said also of others. Yet for this person to be endowed with such universal appeal, there must have been something very special about him. The world has never forgotten him. His name is on someone's lips every second of time. In fact, time is dated from his birth. 1 billion human beings today claim to be his followers, and most of them are convinced that he is the author of their personal salvation. But if there was something special about him, what is it? What was it indeed? And as we go through the Gospel of Mark, and you can ask yourself, what draws me to Jesus? And here's some things that we admire about him, and I'll list some others as we go through the message. Number one, he accomplished what he came to do. Remember when he hung on a cross, he said, it is what? Finished. He was a finisher. We respect people who live what they say. We admire him because he saw beyond what people were and affirmed what they could become. Like I said, I just had a dear brother who went to be with the Lord. Don Gordy is his name. He had that ability. He could see a future in people's lives. He didn't see them staying where they are. And Peter is a great example, right? Peter was a diamond in the rough for sure. But Jesus didn't see him as a crumbling failure after he denied him, 3 times? But he saw him as a rock who would be one day form the foundation of the church. He saw potential in Peter. He saw potential in people. And that's one thing we like about him. He remained joyful and positive in spite of the obstacles. He had lots of obstacles that came his way upon his journey here upon this earth. Although squeezed in the vice of intense suffering, he never expressed bitterness or held a grudge. Even on the day he's on the cross, he told that thief, today you'll be with me in paradise. That's the compassion, that's the heart, that draws people to Jesus. And he had the art of living above one's circumstances. And that's what we're supposed to do, live above circumstances, not under the circumstances. He had the ability to do that. But we admire, one of the most things we admire about him was his heart of compassion. He had a heart of compassion. People mattered to him. When he was on earth, he took time to listen. We'll see that in today, in these things that happen. He took time to welcome a child or children, to touch a leper, to mingle his tears with the tears of grieving. Remember when he was at Lazarus' tomb, he what? Our favorite verse, it's the shortest one in the Bible. Jesus wept. They looked at him and said, man, he loved him. That's that heart of compassion, that love that draws us to him. To him, no one was too little or too lost. As we saw that even at the demoniac from the Gadarenes or Gerasenes, depends on what translation you have. There was actually two of them. This man was beyond hope. People wanted to get rid of him, really what they wanted to do, but they couldn't figure out a way to do that. They couldn't contain him. And then Jesus came and he changed him to a new man, remember? And he told him to go out and share the gospel with other people, what Jesus had done for him. Not even a dying young girl, as we're going to see in this chapter, and a despairing woman. And that's what we'll look at. Two examples of his heart of compassion. We see the crowds gathering in around him. His reputation had gone out. Many people sought him for the wrong reason, but you can still understand that. Why? Because they had never seen anything like that. They had not seen people brought back from the dead. They had not seen people healed from diseases. They had not seen someone tell the storm to stop, and it's quiet. They never had saw anybody that taught like him. He taught with authority, and he taught with compassion, because he had a desire for people to learn about what that mansion being built for them in heaven, and he had that kind of heart. And so first we start out with one distraught father who's glad that Jesus came back over to this side of the sea. In verse 22 it says, and behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name, and when he saw him he fell at his feet. He sees Jesus and he falls at his feet and begged him. He's begging. Mom and Dad, you'll understand this verse. He begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. She's 12 years old. She's lying at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her that she may be healed and she will live. So Jesus went with him, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. So Jairus was a synagogue leader, responsible for the administration of the synagogue and ordering of public worship. He had reached the highest post that life could give him in respect to his fellow man. No doubt he was well-to-do. No doubt he had climbed the ladder of earthly ambition and prestige. But it seems as if life, as it sometimes does, had given lavishly of many things, but was about to take away the most precious thing that he had. His little girl. Money, position, all that don't mean anything when you're losing your child. Death is no respecter of persons or position. Jairus' good standing in the community, his success and everything were all powerless to stem the death of his little girl. Casting aside all pride, he fell at Jesus' feet, grasping, desperately pleading, saying, would you come heal my daughter? She's dying. So what's Jesus do? He didn't give him a lecture, didn't do nothing. He just what? There's that heart of compassion. He just went with him. They start going to and that's what it says. And so Jesus went with him. And the people were following him because they knew that wherever Jesus went, great things happened. Either they'll be taught or they'll see a miracle. And Jesus doesn't say, hey, follow me. I'll give you a miracle to see today. He's just doing what Jesus did, right? He had a heart for people. And he saw the hurt in that dad's eye, pleading earnestly, come with me and heal my daughter. She's dying. He doesn't tell him later to bring her to me at 2 o'clock. I got a lot of stuff going on. I really need to wait for that appointment. But he doesn't do any of those things. That's what's nice about Jesus, right? You don't have to get on if you go to the doctor today, you got to call ahead and plan a meeting, and then you got to see a different doctor and another doctor, and they all, well, I can't see you this month. Well, I'm dying. Well, that's all right. You just have to wait and die until, you get here. And my appointment, Jesus doesn't do that. The great physician, he's there 24/7 all the time. And so he's going along. People are crowding in on him. And now comes a woman who has been bleeding for as long as this girl is old, 12 years. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and has suffered many things from many physicians. She has spent all she had. Oh, amen to that one. Those doctor bills keep on coming in, and they keep on coming in at my house, and it just seems like they keep on coming. Spend all you have. And even if you do have insurance, it's still money. But she had spent everything she had. She had saw every doctor, all the specialists, all the things. She'd been to Cleveland, she'd been to Mayo, she'd been everywhere. She'd been to Michigan. They couldn't help her. She's bleeding. She had spent all she had and was no better, but rather what? Grew worse. So here she has no hope. Just like the dad did. Without Jesus, there's no hope. Jesus gives us hope. Always gives us hope. And it says, when she heard about Jesus, so somebody must have told her, those doctors can't help you, but I know a man who can. And so they started going, and she's thinking, she came behind him in the crowd. Somehow she got close to him. I don't know how that worked out. That must have been God's providence. And she said, if I just touched his garment, I'll be healed. Now that's some faith, folks. That's some faith, not in his garment, but in who Jesus is and what he can do. And for she said, if I only may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. And then it says in verse 29, immediately she touched his robe, and immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up. And she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. Wow. Touched it, healed. And she knew it. She knew right away that God had healed her. And it happened immediately. And just a little bit about this woman. She had an issue of blood, so she was cast away. She couldn't go to the synagogue. She couldn't touch people. People would have nothing to do with her. She was classified as unclean. Ken Geyer, in his book Intimate Moments with the Savior, says, her eyes are downcast as you pass by. She is self-conscious, ashamed, and afraid. She fears the condescension in your eyes. She fears the indifference of your shoulder turned coldly against her. But most of all, she fears the gavel you bring down on her life. She fears the rapt judgment that illness is a direct result of some personal sin. And with a bleeding uterus, anyone could guess what kind of sin she had committed. Sexual, no doubt, are the whispered innuendos. Some perversion, most likely, are the gossiped indictments. Her resources spent, her dreams in ashes. She lets go, falling back into the stream of rushing people, and guess what? She's healed. She's healed. Now, if you're Jairus, you might be thinking this. Hey, buddy, you don't have time to be messing with anybody. He says, I called 911. We've got to get to my daughter. She's dying, remember? I don't know if that's what's going through Jairus' mind. That might be what's going through my mind. I'm thinking, hey, buddy, let's get to my daughter. You can worry about that woman later. She's already lived a lot of years. My daughter still has a lot of years to live. I don't know what's all going through there, but Jesus isn't in a hurry. Jesus isn't in a hurry. And I find that that's what happens in my life a whole lot. Sometimes I get so busy, I don't see the needs around me, even in my own family. That happens, but not Jesus. He stops and he says, and Jesus, immediately knowing, he felt the power had gone out of him, it says, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Disciple says, "Man, this guy's losing it. What do you mean, who touched it? Who hasn't touched your clothes?" But Jesus knew that someone touched him and the power went out. And it goes on. It says, but his disciple said to him, "You see the multitude thronging around you, and you say, 'Who touched me?' And he looked around to see her who had done this thing." He knew who it was. He is God in the flesh, remember? He knew who it was. And she's probably thinking, "Oh no, here it comes. What's he going to say? No one else had anything good to say to me because they think that I've sinned and I've got this bleeding problem because I'm a sinner and I've done something wrong sexually." And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. She just came and blurted it out. What a testimony, huh? It's testimony time. She's telling Jesus that she's had a problem for 12 years, and guess what? I'm healed. Wow. The people don't even know it, that a miracle took place while they're there, but now they can see it. And he said to her, "Daughter," isn't that nice what he called her? Daughter, "your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." From the original language there, it seemed like not only was she physically healed, but guess what? She was spiritually healed. That's included in that word peace. Go in peace. She now has what? Peace with God. She's now what? A daughter. She's now a daughter. So we go from that point, from a woman who needs hope, who has hope. In the world there was no hope, but in Jesus there's always hope. We go back to the daughter. Remember her? She's dying. And Jairus is there, and her faith has made her well. And then we pick up here why she is full of hope. Jairus' hopes are flickering, especially when he gets the next message here in verse 35. While Jesus was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, "Your daughter's dead." Why trouble the teacher anymore? Otherwise, it's too late, right? It's hopeless. She's gone. Imagine how he felt at that time. His heart's broken. My daughter's dead. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, and see, here's that compassion again. He knows exactly what's going on in Jairus' heart. His daughter's dead. He's feeling hopeless, helpless. Maybe he's saying, what could I have done more? Man, I should have just somehow rushed him over there and bypassed this crowd or whatever. You know, you hear people say that. If we'd have just done this, if we'd have just done that. Well, everything's in God's perfect timing, right? And he said, as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid." Only what? Only believe. And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. So we got the three disciples and Jairus. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw tumults and those who wept and wailed loudly. Probably family members. It was not unusual for a group to hire people to come in and mourn and weep, but this girl just died. So they didn't have time to do all that. So it's probably family members and friends and, neighbors. They're together. They got the news the girl died, and guess what? They're crying. They're weeping. When he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? He said, what you crying for? The child's not dead, but sleeping. Now, there's some people that are saying, now we know what dead people are like. She's dead. What do you mean she's sleeping? And they ridiculed him. But when he had them put all outside, and that took care of that, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with him and entered where the child was lying. So he said, let's have a little peace and quiet here. We have mom and dad, 3 disciples, Jesus going into the room, and here's the daughter laying. That's what it says. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, Talitha cumi, which is translated, little girl, I say to you, what? Arise. Wow. Can you imagine what that felt like to mom and dad? I mean, I get goosebumps right now thinking, here's this little girl that was dead, 12 years old, and Jesus reached down and just says arise, and she, guess what? She arises. Because it says in verse 42, immediately the girl rose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. Wow. But, now this is pretty exciting stuff. And we see the great physician who's kind and gentle and compassionate reached down and touched her. She's alive. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it. Now, there's going to be some people that know it. Because remember, there was a house full crying and weeping. And this girl is going to come out alive. But he said, don't go out and just spread it everywhere, because Jesus already had crowds following him so thick he couldn't hardly operate. And so God had a timetable for everything. He says, this is just for you. This is for your family. You keep this in your memory bank. This is a miracle that God has done for you. And said that something should given to her to eat. He says, she's alive, give her some food. She's hungry. I don't know how long she had been lying sick, or whether it was whatever it was that it doesn't tell us. It said she was sick. And how long she'd been laying like that, I don't know. But it had been long enough that Jairus knew that if she didn't get help, guess what? Her dad says she's going to die. So she's hungry. Again, proof that she's alive. The only sad thing about that little girl is she gets to die another time. Anyhow, I'm sure everyone is thrilled with this Jesus and this miracle that he has done. Another reason Jesus, and he doesn't say, hey, look at me what I did. His humility's there. He's kind and he's compassionate, and he offers the touch of life to all who follow him. And I guess that's why I follow him. He gave me life. He gave me life abundant and life eternal. And I'm thankful that he's compassionate, that he's kind. Because I blow it once in a while. I don't know about you, but I blow it. I do things I shouldn't do. I say things I shouldn't say. You know how it is. We're all human. We're all made out of the same mud. Except for girls, they're made out of sugars and spice and everything nice. But the rest of us were made out of mud. And God, he has compassion. I always think of the prodigal son, right? Eating with the pigs. When he came home, his daddy ran out to see him. He said, there's my son. My son's back. Kill the fatted calf and let's have a party. Remember, the other brother said, hey, beat him to death and give me the party. I said, hey, you know, he doesn't deserve it. You know what? Neither do I. I don't deserve it. Why Jairus' daughter? I don't know. I'm sure there was other daughters and other sons dying out there. But God picked this one out, and his compassion was there to show us that God's there for us when we have those needs. We go through those times in life. He's compassionate. Next time you feel too busy as I close on this. Remember these 3 things. Realize that all of life is directed by the Lord, not just the part we have planned. Even the things we are sure about are not set in stone. It's all part of God's plan. I don't understand a lot of things that are going around me. Let me tell you, why does God take some? Why does God give COVID to some and not others? I don't understand that. People in the same house, same room. 10 people get COVID and they get through it. 1 person gets it and they pass. I don't understand that. I don't know that. That's God's business. And it's all part of His plan. He's got something in it for us. And number 2, refuse to discount the unexpected interruptions. God's timing is no way linked to the human clock. God doesn't always work on my timetable. Even with my wife, I've just asked the Lord, what's taking so long? Come on. You did it immediately there. But sometimes He doesn't work immediately. And we got Marianne's husband, Jim. Lynette's husband, Jim, our birthday boy. Been to many physicians. Still not got an answer yet. I don't know that. I don't know why. But God has a plan there somewhere for those interruptions in life. And matter of fact, most of the time after the interruptions comes blessings. Right? Our dear brother Ron. So, Lord, why? When are you going to heal him completely? Come on. I really like an answer. And he said, I don't have to give you no answer. Who are you? But for some reason, God allowed it. I don't know why. But I'm going to figure that it's going to be it's a divine intervention. And then the last one, remember that being busy tends to make us talk too much. And when we're talking, we don't listen to what's going on around us, right? I'm glad that Jesus listened.